uncomfortable almost. Yeah. So I just decided not to. How are you serious right now?
And we are live with AAA Live. I'm your host today, Dylan Camacho. Today with me, as always, is Nat. But also with us is Alex Mack and her wonderful hair tips. She's on the show today. Alex, glad to have you back on the show.
Man, I'm super psyched to be here. I feel like, not even kidding, this is like the most exclusive show to get on. It's really most difficult to get on out of like Schmobates, chill, call live. It is very difficult to get on AAA.
Some people think that it's too much drama and trouble, and that's why we don't get people on the show. No, we just don't allow people on the show.
That's true. I can confirm this.
Check out our last episodes.
Come on, and they're like, no, that bitch.
Yep, this is VIP territory.
We're definitely loosening our restrictions because, like, before you had to be an agent, and now we're just letting anyone on.
Yeah, we put Snyder on, and I'm so glad we did because I think we heated him up for that IG rant that he eventually went on because he was already kind of on that by the time he was talking on our show, and then he just went full in on backstage the next week.
Oh yeah, you just had to get him warmed up, right?
Yeah, if you want to see that warm up episode, go check out on our channel. It's last time we did a AAA episode whatever. Jeff Snyder's on that one, and he has some thoughts on Inner Geekdom. Go check it out. They're pretty similar to his backstage ones. Spoiler. Danny, it's true. I'm on cue for the next 5 years. Danny, you're on that list, buddy. You, Dan Murrell. I mean, a lot of people are on this list. We'll get him on eventually.
Would you imagine we get Dan Murrell on after we fucking dissected him and everything?
After the Dan Murrell episode? Oh, boy. I think that'd be super spicy. Whatever. I got nothing but respect for Dan Murrell. I'd love to have him on. But
yeah, me too.
But he's on the list. Sorry, Dan. So anyway, on today's show, we are going to be breaking down Brendan Meyer in a full-on, super geeky AAA analysis, as always. We're going to talk kayfabe with Stacey Howard. And we are also bringing back Perception versus Reality to start the show off. And we're going to be talking about some trades that happened recently. Before that happens, Nat, what does AAA Live stand for?
Oh, AAA stands for Amish Accounting Academy.
Cool. If you want all of your numbers crunched by people who don't use electronics, you come here to AAA Live and make sure that you have all that stuff locked down pat. They are the cheapest by far, and they will get you the best price on any farm labor or land in the West Coast. Anyway, that's our plug for Amish Accounting Academy. Let's get into. I'm an impressive podcast host to pull that off. Humble brag. Let's get into Perception versus Reality. So, Nat, you want to explain this concept of a show? We haven't done this segment in a minute.
Yeah, it's been a while. So basically, Perception versus Reality is where we take what we consider to be the general consensus on something, and we try to pick it apart and try to give our perspective on it and talk about how it is or is not reality.
Mm-hmm. So a big perception that's going around right now is after, I think the biggest trade that happened more recently was the Ethan Irwin trade.
Boy.
Yeah, and that's a spicy one. People pretty sure that anything trading Ethan Irwin is a pretty poor trade. But let's break it down. What do you think? Alex, yeah. I'm going to pass it to you. So, Ethan Irwin trade. Total bonehead move by Robert Meyer Burnett or not?
Okay, so when it comes to this trade, we got to get the whole picture. So obviously, it's not just Robert Meyer Burnett. He's not just being like, "Hey, you want Ethan? One of my star players? Want him? Give it up for free. What's up? You get a competitor. You get a competitor." So he traded them for rookies, Jader. Paremo, and I can't remember who else. I'm sorry? And Ken Nat's not. Okay, so he's not a competitor, obviously. But it was actually kind of smart on his part because he didn't have a Star Wars competitor in his faction at the time. So that was pretty smart, unless someone magically wanted to take up Star Wars in a day or a few weeks, which feels like a day as far as training goes. So he gave up his star competitor to the usual suspects. Now, but also he
first round pick as well.
First round pick as well. So he's planning for the future. So I definitely do expect very heavy risk, sure. But also on top of that, I do think it was, honestly, I do feel like it was a smart play on Rob's part. To be completely honest, I love Ethan Irwin. He is 100%, one of the top 5 competitors in the game right now. Mm-hmm. He's just, Rob's just feeling a little, I don't want to say greedy, but he's feeling a little extra confident, especially given his faction standings right now. And there's at the time, he didn't have anyone he can't really go much higher, essentially, without several people in the singles as well as Star Wars League. So he was needing those competitors.
Right. Nat, what about you, man? I don't know. If you're telling me you're trading Ethan Irwin for anything less than another top 10 competitor, I'm likely to say you're crazy for it. Talk me off the ledge.
So here's the thing. Coming into this, I was set on Robert Meyer winning the trade. But then you started telling me about these rule changes and everything about how managers can keep 4 players on their team. They can sign up to 4 players on their team.
Yeah. So in recent news, if you haven't caught Sen's episode today, Harloff had announced during the Sen episode that some changes to the upcoming draft for the following year. And this is not super set in stone just yet. This is him spitballing it, but he seems pretty sure of it. So this could totally fluctuate in the time being. But the news that he dropped and the idea he's kind of pitching is that each manager gets to keep 4 players. They get to sign 4 players. They can be from the current roster, could be from other rosters, what have you. The player has to agree to it. It's a 2-way contract, right? So Let's say Gucci wants to keep Merle, Roca, Ben, and Riley. He can sign all 4, lock those 4 down, and then it's all draft for the rest of the stuff. Everybody is open from then on. If you haven't caught Sen, no big deal. That's pretty much the gist of it. So that also means that if a player wants to be able to switch factions, let's say Dan Merle says he wants to not work with Gucci anymore, he can talk. He can talk with other managers, and he can be one of these 4 signed agents that manager uses. So why I think that this kind of makes or breaks the first big 2 draft trades and the round 1 picks for Ethan Irwin is because it feels as though there's 30-something players off the table at this point now for the draft. If you think about it, there's 8 or 9. I forget how many factions there are.
There's 9 factions, so each team, if they got 4, then that would be
36. 36. So 36 players are off the table immediately before the draft even starts. Now, that's not to say that those first-round picks aren't still super strong. They are. Having 2 of those is still good, but it's definitely not as good as it was before. Before, you had 2 top 10 competitors right off the bat, guaranteed to you with this. Now, you're talking strong rookies, 36 and ranked down and below. That's a much different trade to me. And I don't know, throwing away Ethan Irwin, who we can't praise enough on this show. We love him here on AAA. Ethan is just a monster of a competitor. And if you told me, all right, is Ethan worth to a 36th and 37th ranked player? Yes, easily. That's kind of where I'm at now. Now, before that news, I actually was on Rob Meyer's side, I mean, if we're looking at this season right now, not only is he getting a lock in his Star Wars division, we've still yet to see how the singles division will work with tournaments coming up and Irwin just short of a title shot. I think he still needs to play Roca to figure out who's number 1 contender there. A lot of this season is left to be in limbo because of quarantine. So maybe planning ahead for that next season is pretty smart. Having 2 round 1 picks is sweet. But I don't know, man. 36, 37, 38 players. If you give me 4 or 5 of those players, I don't know if I'd give them up for Ethan Irwin now.
Yeah, let me give you my thoughts before I had this new information. I definitely think that Robert Meyer won this trade because 1, you're getting a decent player in Jader. Number 2, you're getting a very strong Star Wars competitor in Ken, who has a really good chance of winning the tournament. And 3, you're getting 2 first-round picks in 2021. So that is huge. That's a leg up on every other faction in the league. So I think it was definitely worth it to trade 1 player, no matter how good he is. We know how good Ethan Irwin is, but he is prone to mistakes. He has lost in the past, so he might not rack up as many wins as you would expect. Mm-hmm. Whereas I think Jader and Ken have Jader's kind of new. He's going to be given easier opponents, whereas Ethan Irwin was a top tier competitor, so he's only going to be facing elite competition.
Right.
So I think, in thinking about it that way, then Robert Meyer definitely won that trade, but like this new information definitely weakens the first round pick for me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he won, but I mean, I think it's not as strong as it was before.
Right. Alex, we've been doing a lot of fantasy trades and stuff recently in our one of, I'm sure probably many of our fantasy roster trades. Our fantasy. So I don't know if you're in this position. Here's what I'm going to ask you, and then we'll start to wrap up this perception versus reality. You're in the position Robert Meyer Burnett is. You have Ethan Irwin drafted, and you say, "All right, we're going to run this fantasy league back next year, and I'm going to trade him up." Do you make this trade?
I would want the full picture.
Mm-hmm.
It really just depends on the circumstances. In 95% of the cases, of offers, I'm likely to say no. But you never know. I would have to look at my complete faction and what leagues are playing at the very beginning. Who knows? Maybe teams and singles aren't going to play for like 6-7 months. I mean, we don't know sometimes. Maybe the first few tournaments are going to be specific to IG and Star Wars leagues that he is not going to be competing in at all. So he's just going to be a sitting duck. I would hate for my competitors to kind of feel like they're not getting the attention they deserve, or that they're not getting. They feel like their skills are going to go to waste because they're just waiting for things to happen. Now, that's to say, obviously it's just a matter of time until they play. So why would you trade him anyway? I totally understand that. But at the same time, how much confidence do I have in them and their abilities to not only play as an individual, which in Ethan's case, 100%, I do have every confidence. I am still very curious about Ethan's ability to play with another team, because we haven't really seen him play really great with a team yet.
It's true.
When he played with Janine, they were good. They weren't great. So
yeah.
I mean, there's a reason why they're not together anymore so far.
Thanks for that to come back. And I'm there with you, though. I mean, as much as Ethan seems like a person you can just slide into any of like singles or teams categories or anything like that, I think it does say something that he's still something about teams. I don't think he's found his full potential with a partner with. Him and Janine, I think, were a lot more capable than what they actually performed with as a time machine, and that's saying both of them, and their stats back that 100 times to 1. So I think even seeing the possibility of kind of just seeing how the rest of the season goes, how the matches play out and all that. Rob Meyer may pull out ahead, he may not. That's a time will tell thing. Normally we have some stats to kind of back it, but I think this way, if you look at it this way, it comes down to one match. If Ethan doesn't win his match against Roca, then he might not see a singles match for a long time. I don't know if there's going to be a singles tournament until later in the year, if that's streamed, what have you, but it'll be interesting. Meanwhile, if you have Ken is more than likely to win his one match in Star Wars and be able to get more points than Irwin could get in his one match against Roca. So I think every little match counts at this point. We're squeezing the dead orange, what feels like with this season. We're trying to get any drip feed of matches we can in quarantine time. So, maybe Robert Meyer Burnett's on to something, but he's having fun either way. Alex, I just saw your chat on that one. I know if you need to pop off, no worries. We just want to say,
I'm so sorry about, I didn't realize this was going to happen. Something happened, very surprised that I am going to hop off in a few minutes. But that being said, I still have a few minutes. So
awesome.
Yes, so just 5 more minutes. So
yeah, no problem. We are all super busy hosts here on not only AAA Live, but here at the Call to Action Podcast channel. We're always on doing something and talking to somebody and part of something. So let's go ahead and just go and breach into the next category, and then we'll maybe get some quick thoughts from Alex on this one. Yeah. So the next section of this episode today is going to be How's My Kayfabe? And today we're talking about Stacey Howard.
Heel!
Ooh!
It is a heel.
Oh boy, let's get the spicy redheads on this one. Alex, we'll start with you. So, Stacey Howard, do you love the sassy one? Or are you not a fan? Where are you landing?
Dude, I love Stacey. She is wonderful. She does not get enough credit. She is fantastic. She has a really, really solid record, and not enough. I don't like to say that she's. I think that she's not underestimated, but she's definitely undervalued. As far as like really great competitors that have been around for a long time, she's never really in that conversation, and I really don't appreciate that. Because she deserves to be in there because she has pulled out some serious hits, and every time she competes, she gives a great match. And not to mention, she's one of the few competitors that her characters have stayed the same, and she's played it flawlessly. I love her.
True. Yeah, and that's something me and Nat were kind of talking about recently after this whole Zipper match, which, spoilers on that, Stacy, oh my god, I don't know how to call that match, but after the Stacy match, there was one thing where I've noticed where she's consistently been this same sassy heel character, but she's done so much to still evolve it. She's done enough to stay not one note. She still has her sass. She still plays that, that queen heel, so to speak. Queen heel sounds almost like Shannon thing. I don't know. Maybe like whatever. She's got this royal entitlement next to her. Right? You're so lucky to be able to play against Stacey Howard.
You should. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And you're absolutely right. She is just this random stone cold killer in matches. Like,
the way she is able to really puzzle piece the answers, and I do understand, like, both Kaiser and Roxy, they were fantastic managers, when it comes to this match. And I am kind of curious how we are going to look back at this match, because she's destroyed Riley. She's destroyed Mark Ellis, 2 prior singles champions, and people still don't really talk about her, how she's a great competitor.
She beat Zipper the next day.
I said Dan Murrell, how she's lucky, how she's able to like pull out these answers out of nowhere, out of thin air. And the answer is she's not pulling them out of thin air. Just like Roxy said, I 100% believe it. She is able to puzzle piece very efficiently, very well. And I don't know how the fuck she does it, but it's fantastic. I mean, Anthony Hopkins, where did that come from? In my reaction, I guessed Jeffrey Rush because I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Weird, horrible movies before. Who hasn't?
Hearing her break it down behind the scenes, right? She was just like, I was thinking, all right, somebody probably Oscars, some old white dude.
Voice.
Yeah, somebody who has a good voice, and breaking down these ones. Like, I don't know, man. I love that there's still, she manages to still be one of those genuine characters, right? One of these Dan Murrell, Bibiani, people who tend to be relatively themselves while still being able to play the character as needed. Like, Stacy, I think my favorite part about her as the heel is that she's not perfect and she knows that.
Yes.
But she totally just leaps into the imperfectness that she is. Like, when she doesn't get when she gets a question right and she totally doesn't know it, she doesn't even try to play it. She's just like, oh my god! Like,
it feels so genuine and real. Honestly, it's right. Like, not to say everyone else doesn't have a genuine reaction, but she's just one of those competitors. You feel everything she's feeling, but similar to Zipper, going into that match in particular. I know we're talking about Stacey, but I wanted both of them to win, and I wanted neither of them to lose. Because the look on Zipper's face, where he's like you could tell he knew it, but he didn't know it. At the same time, where and I remember messaging him right after, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, that was amazing and everything." And he was like saying, "Yeah, I'm still kind of beating myself up about it because I knew it. It was right there. It sucks."
Yeah, Zip man.
What was that?
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Nat, go ahead, buddy.
Her, but I definitely was rooting for Stacey because your boy had her in fantasy. Your boy's in first place, baby. Stacey.
Stacey's in one of my fantasy leagues as well. So.
How many fantasy leagues are you in, Alex?
I'm in 3.
I knew it. I was gonna say 3, and that's that Stacey Howard instinct. I just knew without having any base knowledge on it. Stacey, what's really interesting about Stacey, though, is I think that some of that genuineness is actually really effective in her heel play, though, because you said something earlier where everybody feels what Stacey feels in that room, and I think that does actually a lot to keep people tense and kind of wound up. And whenever she doesn't know a question, it's not the Ben Bateman guessing game with her. You're generally on your edge of your seat, oh my god, I hope she doesn't know this question. And I think that shows so much. Yeah, if you need to bounce, girl.
She's faking a guess or something. Is it
what?
where he's kind of pulling that little moment or something like that. And with Stacey, it's real though. But again, I am kind of curious of how we're going to look back at this match, especially. Also, by extension, why was Zipper able to play her, considering her record?
I don't know. I think they've kind of had this slowly building rivalry at this point, and I think as singles competitors, they're of similar tiers. Their records don't line up, but in singles, he's still up and coming, and she's one of these vet players who's middle lane, so they usually tend to build those.
Yeah. At the same time, he played last season. He only played one match that he won, so he's technically was 1-0. But before that, he played in teams and he was in IG. So I'm kind of really it just doesn't line up. It's kind of an unusual pick.
Sounds like a conspiracy going on here.
No. Conspiracy talk. On that note, I should probably head out.
All right. Thanks for joining us for the time, Alex.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm so sorry I had to cut this short. I love you guys. I'll talk to you guys later.
Love you. See you soon.
Okay, so I have a lot to say about Stacey Howard.
Yeah, go ham, buddy.
I think it's really good that she's a heel, but there's the most common type of heel to me is the heels who you love to hate, and I don't think Stacey is that. I think Stacey is a heel you can root for, in that she lives up to her nickname, her moniker, Sassy. Like, you love to see her. She just has so much charisma that it just pops on screen. And I think she would actually work as a babyface too, because she'd be the plucky underdog. But she's not. She's a heel. She likes to just trash talk, and has some of the best one-liners I've ever heard on the Throwdown. And yeah, I mean, how could you not like Stacey Howard? Like, every year I want to draft her in fantasy. I think I've drafted her 3 years in a row, maybe. Because I do think she's super underrated. She's undervalued, as Alex said. Yeah, I mean, she's taken out some of the biggest names in the Schmodown, and I think that's a credit to her and how I think being the underdog and pulling out those miraculous wins is a huge part of her character, and that makes her one of the most fascinating people to watch.
Yeah, Meg's made a really really strong point as well. Stacey is hard to bet against, but also totally unpredictable. And yeah, man, Stacey is if you have all the Schmoedowns on a betting board, right? If there's a Greyhound race of Schmoedown competitors, she is probably ranked 1 in the wild cardest, most random odds one that you give possible, because the odds seem to be stacked against her in most of her matches. But the fact that she's capable of taking out anybody of any caliber on any given day, that, she has that top 10 quality to her, right? On any given Sunday, she could win. Doesn't matter who she's against.
Definitely.
And still, but the consistency says a lot for her to be, on her ranking and placement with everything. But that all said, I completely agree with you. She is definitely one of these competitors who, if they turned her face, it would be an easy turn for her, because she's such a likable character. She's one of these heels that you don't want to hate, and you don't love to hate her, but you do love the sass that she puts out there and lets it just still stay in character and stay genuine to herself. And I think this has to be something really natural to her as a person. If you've seen Stacey in any of her other content, obviously you know that this is not too far off from her. Yeah, it's perfect. What she's done with the character is taken it just far enough to sit here and play heel, but be this desperate damsel in a match, and then you feel tense because you don't know if she's going to win get this question or not, and it's just it's always just very interesting. I remember thinking Stacey has some of the most interesting matches of all the Schmodown history, I think.
Yeah, Brian says in the chat she's undefeated against Marks in the tournament. It's an easy feat to beat Mark Ellis and Mark Riley.
Yep.
It's insane.
She is the bracket buster queen. She is the Mark Slayer. She is Stacey Howard, the sassy one.
For the record, I had her winning both those matches, so I'm Nostradamus in this bit.
Man, after the baby carrots one, I'm telling you, I wanted to put it down. And that is the only match that cost me a perfect bracket that year.
I love bracket busters because somehow I usually get them right. I had Late to the Party beating Wolves of Steel too. Something about those underdogs who have the potential to win any given match. Those are the people I like to root for.
It's kind of hard not to love that underdog here. And it's so funny calling Stacey an underdog, being a veteran for as much of a veteran as she is. But she does. She somehow holds on to this underdog aura to her, and I think that makes her so charming as a player to watch, just because you really don't know if you're going to get this. And don't forget the wheel breaker. You're absolutely right, Meg. She breaks brackets, wheels, everything about the Schmodown. Stacy is the X in this algebra equation, if you get that AAA live exclusive reference here.
Yeah, we're definitely Asian.
Oh, yeah. Definitely Amish here. You can tell, because our hair is getting crazier and wilder as time goes on. Yeah, Amish Academy. Any closing thoughts for Stacy and her honestly awesome kayfabe work?
I mean, what more can you say? I just love, because we don't see a lot of heel underdogs, and that's exactly what Stacy is, and she fits into that mold like better than anyone can possibly fit into that mold.
Yeah.
So I think she's definitely one of my favorite characters. Like early on in the league, story about me, I found a Schmodown through Kind of Funny. So like I didn't know a lot of people before coming in, but I knew Brian Chandler because she's been on Kind of Funny. Right. So automatically her and Stacy became one of my favorite teams from the start. So I've been locked in on Stacey Howard from the start, and she's only gotten better. She's only like gotten more comfortable in the Schmodown. So I mean, you'll have to see it.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, closing on Stacy, I think that you nail it just right. There's Whitney is another heel underdog.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, I'd give you that. One of these people who it's just interesting to see that dynamic, and I think that she's definitely one of these rare personalities in the kayfabe scene for a Schmodown that lets it continue to grow, continue to be breaking just champ heels, champ faces, facing off all the time, and then you just have the rookies trying to figure themselves out. I love these ones who are just in their own little specific niche, and I think that's why we had to give this moment to make sure that Stacey Howard knows that character work is recognized and that she's a shining star in there, not to be mixed up with Rachel Silverstream. But yeah, I mean, I guess without further ado, we're just about done with the show. Oh, wait, we've got to talk about Brendan Meyer. Tell them about Competitor's Corner, Nat. What's this thing?
Competitor's Corner is where we break down a competitor's strengths and weaknesses, and we basically create a guidebook on how to beat them.
Mm-hmm. And today, we are talking about Brendan, the Kid Meyer. Fun story before we get into this, actually. Brendan Meyer and Chandru, I'm going to nail both of them on this one, are actually about 95% of the reason why this show exists.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, wasn't like Brendan Meyer the one who like told you like he watches our content to like figure out how to beat people?
Yeah. Back in Spectacular, we're cutting up, hanging out with a bunch of competitors and everything like that, as celebrities do. And he had mentioned, he was just like, yeah, I really love you guys' show and content. I actually use it to, help study. And I'm like, what? I'm like, you watch our stuff to study? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, I don't know what he's studying, but all right, Brendan. I mean, I trust you, buddy. You're an honest fellow. I'll take your word for it. And I let that idea sit on me for a minute, and I was just like, what if we just made a show that just is straight up a study guide for other competitors? And I'm like, Brendan Meyer, you genius. Chandru has also mentioned that point separately at a different time as well. He agreed with Brandon saying, yeah, 100%. Like, your guys' stuff is actually really good. You're covering up-to-date stuff. But the little nooks and crannies, that constant updates, it always kind of helps us study. That's very much paraphrased. Chandru can quote me on that later. But, yeah, so they both kind of unintentionally inspired AAA Live to make it what it is. So, Brendan, honorary AAA Live, inspirator, founder, co-founder, whatever. I don't know, whatever. Let's get into this breakdown, though. Sorry, Brendan, we're going to break you down. So let's pull up stats from the one and the only wonderful Megan McCurley, also already in chat.
Shout out to Megs.
Shout out to Megs, as always. Let's break down Brendan the Kid Meyer. So, singles record from this past year, we're looking at a 2-3 record. 2 technical knockouts, round 1 average of 6.2. Perfect rounds, 1 out of 5. Round 2 average after round 2. Strong points in this one, 12. General averages after round 2 on that. That's pretty darn good. We're looking to steal accuracies. Round 2 chooses to defer. This one is the more interesting stat to me. Even though it's only out of 2 matches that he's had to go to third round, both of those matches, he gets to 2, 3, and 5 100% of the time. Obviously, his Shazam stats are a little bit better, but let's talk about what we take from these stats right here. Nat, what are your first impressions looking at his stats over the season?
I think it's really interesting that his round 3 accuracy is perfect. For someone who technically has a record 2 and 3, I think that it's weird that he's someone who's been nailing his round 3 questions so accurately. I think that he obviously feels more comfortable with Bibiani competing in teams than Shazam.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that has something to do with him being relatively new and he's a fan of the league. So I think nerves might play a factor when it comes to singles. When you have Bibiani, it's a lot easier not to be nervous. So I definitely think that his strength is in teams.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think Brandon definitely suffers from two things. He's definitely still suffering from rookie syndrome, I think even now, where he's a solid competitor through and through, but he kind of lacks that confidence piece, right? And I think that's why you start to see a drastic difference in his performance level in singles versus his team's record, where we're looking at teams in Shazam 5-1. Obviously, Bibbs can contribute to some of that, but looking at just Brandon's stats separately, 7.8. I mean, he's up almost a 2-point difference in round one. 2 more perfect rounds than his singles performance, and his round 2 percentage goes up. Yeah, I mean, only like 2%, but every percent matters. He only improves as a team player under somebody that he can kind of bounce with, right? So if he's drifting with Bibiani, he has that confidence there. And you can tell he's performing at a better level. Like, it's very much a difference between here's where he's performing and here's his potential. And I think he inches closer on that team level with that comfortable factor of having Bibbs to riff with. I also think that the record doesn't necessarily reflect his stats because he kind of has what I call Chance Ellison syndrome. Now, the problem is he's 2-3, sure, but we all know how good Brendan Meyer is. So his matches are top-tier players. He's usually playing top 10 competitors now at this point. And of the top 10 competitors, I mean, his percentages is usually he's about the 10th player, right? Out of the top 10, we'll have those stats pulled up on another slide, but he's like right at 10th. So it's interesting to see that he's consistently only been playing competitors that are statistically better than him off the bat. And I do think that tends to hurt his record overall. I mean, if you think of some of his losses, he's lost to Dave Merle, he's lost to Ben Bateman, and he's lost to Oyama. So, I mean, what can you say about those losses other than that? Your losses against all 3 champs. But yeah, so that's kind of the quick breakdown on his. Choosing to defer in round 2, I think that makes a lot of sense for him. I think he's something I've mentioned to you off screen. Brendan Meyer's a smart player. I think he's one of those tactical players. He wants to be a strategist, and he wants to see how many points he can get away with by skirting on round 2. If he needs to break down a multiple choice, he's one of those strategic players. He's not really a momentum player. He's all right. Cool. I know how well I can do. Let me see how much I can get by on if I need to miss a couple points. His only losses are champs. You're absolutely right, Brian. And not only that, they were champs on their run. He lost to Oyama on Oyama's run to the belt. He lost to Ben's run on the belt, and then he lost to Dan, who was on his run to the belt, right? It was a 3-way into the match with Ben.
It was a number 1 contender match.
Yeah, it was number 1. So he's only lost to champs who were already either champ level or former champs on the run to the belts.
Yeah.
It's pretty bad luck, actually.
That's very bad luck. I don't think his record speaks to how good he is. The problem with Brendan Meyer is that he's only going to get better. As he gets more comfortable with the league, he's only going to get better. But the problem is his competition is going to keep being elite. Mm-hmm. So he's going to keep running into these powerhouse players.
Yeah, I mean, unless he just gets a really good placement in like a singles bracket or something like that, I don't see him skirting away from playing top 10 competitors at this point forward. Yeah. And while I think he's capable of beating those top 10 competitors, I think that it's going to be one of those things that Brendan Meyer is going to be one of these great players with just not the best record to reflect his skill. Mm-hmm. And I think that's just a matter of circumstances and stuff like that. I love calling it the Chance syndrome because if you look at that IG bracket, Chance just gets, oh man. I mean, it speaks for itself. Go check out the IG bracket over on Schmodown Facebook page to see how you think Chance Ellison will do in the IG tournament. But we're not here to talk about him. We're talking about Brendan Meyer. Let's go into some further stats here. So we have his matches. Let me get the full screen on this one. Matches. He has a team match with Bibbs against the Scream Queens, TKO. They have their match against the Movie Guys, which is criminally underrated. Go back and watch that match. It is probably the best match of the tournament. Nailbiter beats the Movie Guys. Goes against Odd Couple, another killer match. Properly, billed though. Beats the Odd Couple. Plays the Looney Bin. Crazy close match. Beats the Looney Bin. Plays the Family. We don't talk about it. Plays against the Founding Fathers. loses to the Founding Fathers on this one. So again, champs defending their stuff, and most of your losses being against Dan Merle, I won't hold that against Brandon Meyer on this one.
No,
when we get into the real meat and potatoes here, let's get into the strengths and weaknesses, right?
Yeah.
So strengths, I mean, they're looking pretty solid. Strengths for a top 10 competitor, you're probably going to have 100%, 90%, is maybe a couple 80% on the bottom. That checks out for him. Oscars, 100. Horror, animated, drama, sci-fi. Nothing below 80% accuracy. So 4 out of 5 times he's getting almost all these questions right. Sometimes he's getting all of them right. We look into weaknesses, and this is where it really starts to break down where he ranks against other top 10 competitors, I think. Now, he's commented before saying that he's actually pretty good at James Bond, but he just got a bad batch of questions in his match against Ben, I believe, where he got 25% on the James Bond one. That comes from pretty much just one match. Directors, Festival Darlings. Festival Darlings is a pretty hard category. Yeah, but then we get into action, adventure, and comedy, which are, I mean, naturally broad ones, so they're going to be tricky. Even Team Action hasn't even excelled in action adventure all the time. But yeah, having 50%, 25%, 73% is about right for weakness levels, but you don't want to have too many more lower than that, and seeing a couple more categories drop below that really starts to show the crack in the armor of a top 10 player, right?
Yeah. I would like to go back to earlier when we were talking about his stats, his round 2 stats. I think it's really interesting that he gets it mostly right when he doesn't go to multiple choice. Right. So to me, that says that what he knows really well, and the things he doesn't know, he just doesn't know. Mm-hmm. And I think it's reflected into his strengths and weaknesses, because like his strengths, he's doing really good in them. He got 100% in Oscars in horror. But his weaknesses, especially for a top 10 player, are very glaring. Like you don't often see a top 10 player get 25% of any category.
Nope.
So yeah, I think that speaks a lot to, like, his strengths are strengths, but his weaknesses are very glaring. And if he's gonna keep winning going forward, then he needs to patch those weaknesses up.
Yeah, exactly. If he's wanting to be a top 10 competitor and competing with the top 5, so to speak, I mean, if you go back to our previous episodes and see any of our other episodes talking about top 10 competitors, which is almost exclusively what we cover, you'll see that the percentage levels are, the lowest you'll see is maybe like a 70%, maybe a 65, right? Nothing below 50. And yeah, Brendan Meyer is one of these people who, which is funny, like I would say he's really, really well-rounded. He's definitely a round 1 player. He excels in round 1. We see that with his performances with Shazam and everything like that. But he still has some pretty big glaring weaknesses when it goes into the depth of it. So, yeah, for now, he's going to be one of those ones where if you're playing him round 2, he's going to choose to defer. I think that makes sense for something with his playstyle. If he knows that he has more weaknesses, making sure that the opponent goes first, so they maybe take a weakness off the wheel, and then he can only spend nothing but strengths.
Yeah,
I think is probably the strategy play he has in mind in that. So, if we're talking strategy, guys, and you're playing Brendan Meyer, and you are ahead on this one, my man Chandru in the chat coming here to distract me. I love you, buddy. Let's get your comment in here. Thanks for naming your honorary co-founder. My Asian parents would be proud. Chandru, God bless your soul. I'm so glad you're here. We're talking Brendan Meyer. You just stay tuned, buddy. So, yeah, Brendan is going to be probably one of these players where if you're ahead of him in round 2, you want to make him go first, because he does have enough glaring weaknesses where if he spins wrong, you probably just win the match off a bad spin with him. Now, that's true for a lot of competitors, but his round 3 averages are solid enough where you probably don't want to sit here and be playing the round 3 game with him, right? I mean, the times he's played round 3 so far in singles, he's 100% in all 3 questions.
Okay.
So, yeah, you don't want to touch him in round 3. You want him to have a terrible round 2 and either knock him out or just outright just be far enough ahead where you can just get your 2 and your 3 called a day.
Yeah, definitely. I think that Brendan Meyer is like one of those players who knows what his weaknesses are. Like even if he watches our show, I think he knows like where his what his strengths are and where his weaknesses lie. And I think he's definitely only going to get better. Like I said, the only problem is he's going to keep facing elite competition. So I definitely see some wins in the kid's future. I just don't think it's going to be an easy road. No,
yeah, definitely not. I think it's an uphill battle for him, and not to say that he doesn't have the talent or the potential to be winning these matches. He absolutely does.
Yeah, he's so good. He's so knowledgeable. Like yeah. I was on the episode with him on Chill, and he was talking about how being on Throne changes the way he watches movies, where he actively seeks out movies that he thinks would be asked in the Schmoedown. Like he rewatches them. So I think that he definitely has a mind for the game, and it doesn't surprise me that he's a strategy player because he was a fan before he started playing. So
Right.
I definitely think that he's more strategic than emotional player than some of the other players that we've covered in the past.
Right. Yeah, and definitely if you're looking at his strengths, I think a conversation here before we kind of wrap up on talking the strengths weaknesses side of Brandon is, something I thought about before, Oscars, horror. Oscars is probably a passion thing with him because, he's an actor and, he probably just enjoys the concept of that as a whole. Horror and fantasy sci-fi and dramas are things that he acts in. I mean, from what I can see on his IMDb page that we peeked right beforehand, these are things that he's generally invested in, and I don't think it has to do with just him being a Bibbs fan and being a partner with him. I think he just truly has a passion for these genres. So I think if you get stuck with him rolling a strength, sure, I think that if it's a strength, it's a strength. But you really do not want to land on having him get horror or Oscars or something like that are passion fan ones of his. These are ones that I think that he for sure is going to be coming back into and always wanting to get on it. I might want to double check on Brendan's round 3 stats. My Encyclopedia against round 3 against Video Drew. Yes, we noted that before. Chandru there. So a big thing with that is that we look at the past 365 days. So beginning of January last year to that one. I'm not sure if that match falls in with him in Video Drew, but we'll double check on that just to be sure because I remember mentioning right beforehand that he couldn't pronounce Taika Waititi's name, but he knew who he was talking about.
We definitely talked about it before going on.
Right. But good point on that one. We'll double check on that one to be sure. But either way, his round 3 accuracy, other than that, is super solid. Never mind, you're only doing the last 5 matches. Now we got you, Chandru. It's all right. Anyway, so yeah, his singles matches speak for themselves. He plays against Oyama on Oyama's run to the belt. Plays against Woody Seibold, TKO. TKO's Howard, who we just got done talking about. That's not something to be slept on either. Loses to Bateman, loses against Merle by the time it's all said and done. So, just a quick recap, Nat. Let's go over the accuracy. So we're playing him in singles.
Mm-hmm.
Round 1, if you get 7 on average, you're ahead. You want to get that 7. You want to get that 8. I mean, you always want to get at least a perfect round in an ideal world, but
the key to winning is get as many points as you can.
Right. Who knew that at the end of the day, the key to winning is just getting questions right, guys? So, no, but for real, I think round 1 is the most important to be ahead because you want to have control of being able to have him spin first because round 2, he has those glaring weaknesses that are going to show way more in round 2 than in any other round, right?
Yeah.
I think if you pull ahead in round 1 and you're able to get that ahead and then you put him on round 2, he has the most glaring weaknesses. He spins one wrong off, and his weaknesses are rough. Those are ones that we just have category and proof of for right now. There's probably some more that may be hiding, especially with all these new categories that added this season. There's a lot of stuff still left to study, so I'm curious to see how much more some of these other weaknesses are really weighing in. Round 3, he's pretty solid in round 3 overall, so I would say that you want to keep an eye out on that. But, yeah, I think you pull ahead in round 2 and you just win from there.
Yeah, you definitely need to pull ahead around round 2 because you don't want to face Brendan Meyer with the lead in round 3 because, against him, if he has the lead, is what I mean. Because, he's going to knock him out of the park. I think the thing going in is you need his weakest round, I think, is probably round 2 because he has, glaring weaknesses. And you just got to hope that he doesn't spin one of his strengths because if he does, then it's going to be a really uphill battle.
Right. And just if you're tuning in and you really want to have that juicy info on that, if you're spinning Brendan Meyer's on the wheel and he gets a punish or something like that, look at these weakness categories right here. James Bond, which
I would probably not give him James Bond because, you said,
James Bond I'd put an asterisk next to because he has said before that he actually performs really well in James Bond, but that was just bad category or bad questions for him in his match. And Meyer's not one of these people who I think is going to sit here and mislead you. He's a pretty honest dude. I think if he says he's good at James Bond, I'd believe him.
I believe him. He's an honest guy.
He's an honest guy with that. Directors, Festival Darlings, Action Adventure Comedy. These 4 I feel confident on making sure that if you lasso him with those ones, he's going to have a hard time. Even on his best days, he's only pulling 50-50 on those ones. So, round 2, put him in a killer weakness, be ahead in round 1, get him in one of these ones. Opponent's choice, or if he just spins it and spins again and then lands on one of these, then you're solid. If you're looking to study, on Brandon Meyer's weaknesses and not fight him for our strengths, fight him on the stuff that you know he's going to be losing. Yeah. Looking in those categories, I think if you're going to be knowledgeable in here, you're going to be left with a lot of room to steal. He tends to go multiple choice, but that tends to be because that he just does not have that confidence to answer that category. I think if you're strong in these categories and he gets lassoed on it, you're pretty much guaranteed to win from there, barring your performance in round 2 or round 3. But again, if you're playing Brendan Meyer, you're probably a top 10 competitor, so you probably did pretty well in round 1, and you're probably going to do really well in round 3. Other than that, any other last thoughts as we start to wrap up the breakdown for Brendan Meyer?
Yeah, Ferris says in the chat, I believe you're winning by 4 points or more. Always spin first to put the pressure on your opponent. That's a good strategy, but I do think that it depends on your opponent and like how comfortable you are that you will regain that lead. Because you've seen with more strategic players, even if they have a big lead, they won't put the pressure on because they're well aware that they still have their round 2 questions and they just want to see what's left on the board after their opponent takes one category off. So I think there's something to be said for deferring even if you're up by a lot of points.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Ferris, this is definitely I would say the way that we tend to break down round 2 is that there's 2 camps of players, right? If this is one of the first times checking in on the show, we tend to break it down 2 different ways. You're a momentum player or a strategy player. Momentum player kind of goes with your strategy in mind. You put the pressure on you if you're ahead in points. You just leap ahead in points and you're just, you have that that not only that cushion for you, but that discouraging factor for your opponent. They see how many points they're behind, and that's already mentally messing with them. But not all competitors are deterred by that. Some players, I think, tends to be a lot slower players and can sit there and say, okay, well, if I'm round 2, I know that they've got this many points. That means I can't go multiple choice on this question, or this question, or I'll be behind in round 3. So some players, like if you're Ben Bateman, Andrew Ghai, Sam Levine, a lot of these, what I would call the strategy players, tend to like to play second in round 2 because they know how much they can defer down to you on points, how much they are able to lose while still being able to play and stay in the match. So I think it's totally, there's no right or wrong answer to that. Top 10 competitors can be a mix of both. We've known Kalinowski is a huge momentum player. He loves being ahead, and that's just better for his own sake of mind. If we look at Bibbs and a couple other ones, I think they tend to be strategic players and play a little bit slower and rather see how much points they can keep on in multiple choice.
Yeah, definitely. There's no right or wrong answer. It just depends on how you play and who you are.
Right. I don't know, Nat. If you're a round 2 player, which camp are you in? Are you momentum or are you strategy?
Just like in Madden, I always defer. I always let them think they're ahead, but then I come in and let them stay ahead because I'm not good at movie trivia.
Yeah, neither am I. So I'm there with you. I'm sitting here saying, okay, how many multiple choices can I get to not lose by TKO in round 3? That's the dream, right?
Yeah, and it's gotta be really demoralizing to actually go first and then still not be in the lead. Like that would crush me.
Yeah, I think I would have to be a strategy player because I feel like if I bet all in on myself and I get a poor category on around that, and then I just lose my momentum, and then not only lose it, but then feel like I'm losing, or if they get enough steals where they're ahead before they even get to play their turn, I feel like I've lost already. Like,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, anyway, guys, that's our show today on AAA Live, breaking down Brendan Meyer. If you're just tuning in and you're catching the tail end of this stuff, you can catch our talk on Stacey Howard's kayfabe and how our thoughts are on the Ethan Irwin trade and all that recent fun gossip. Nat, as we round up this episode, buddy, where can they catch you at?
The people can find me on Twitter at NattyIce44, Facebook Nat Vu. Catch me on streaming on Twitch, twitch.tv/NattyIce44. I'll probably be streaming sometime this week, playing some Predator Hunting Grounds if anyone wants to hop in the chat and keep me company during those long wait times.
Uh-huh. Nice. Natty Ice 44. Make sure to go check that out, especially on Twitch, guys. Go support it out. Everybody's getting into Twitch now, including Schmodown, so why not? We're all in there. You can catch me at CAMACH Octopus at Twitter. I tweet sometimes. And you can also catch me in Nat's Twitch channel. Go check it out. I'm not over there. I'm not always hosting. I'm never hosting. I might be in chat sometimes. You never know. I haven't followed. That's what counts. Go support our bros. You can tune into this show here in another 2 weeks. So whenever that date is, the 28th. Ooh, sweet even number, 1428. You can catch us on the 28th of May, where we're going to be breaking down, who knows? Actually, I think we do now. So we know it's not going to be the one that we talked about before. So then that means all that's left is not only the partner of Brenda Meyer, that would be
the Beast.
The Beast. There we go. Man, that long queue. Ferris, then great show, guys. Thank you so much, Ferris.
Thank you so much, Ferris.
That's our first donation in this show. Hell yeah, brother. Thank you. Yeah, so we're going to break down Bibbs and that crazy strategy, and that's going to be a nightmare for us because Bibbs is really, really good, and his stats are probably really, really good. So God bless Megs. Make sure to shout out Megan McCurley in the chat as well. And as always, our statistician on the show, making this thing go what we get. What she gets 2 weeks notice. I know we did it, guys. We finally called it out ahead of time, and we didn't give her 2 days to prepare. We only do it because we know that Megs is that confident. So make sure to go check out Megs McCurley at Megs Reclaimed on Twitter. You can see her post the stats about this stuff on the Facebook page, on the Schmodown Facebook page, as well as Twitter. So make sure you're following her. Give her all the love in the world. She gives a lot of the good smarts to these guys right here. We just package it up and deliver it.
Megs is definitely a gangster.
Mm-hmm. OG, triple OG. Megs in the chat, everybody. That's our show. We'll see you here in a couple weeks. See you then, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Awkward.